Hey guys, my name is Iasmina and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to do the Q&A that I promised a couple of videos ago, and also stick around at the end for a very special giveaway that I'm very excited to do. So this is probably going to be a long video, so grab a drink or snacks and let's chat about things. I don't know, you've asked me some things, I'm gonna answer some things. We'll see how this goes. I'm wearing my glasses, which I usually only wear when I'm working, so like if I'm at the computer or reading or something, but I'm not sure about the glare, so I think I'm just gonna... Okay, so I have some coffee, and I have your questions here, so let's just get started. I'm excited to see what you guys want to know. Okay, so first question I see says, didn't you find Edina on the Kingkiller Chronicles annoying? She is everywhere. It's kind of like the world has about 10 people. I like the books, but I think it's a little overestimated. Okay, so I see this question quite a lot, or at least I see comments about growth in Edina quite a lot. And look, I'm not gonna lie, I think the whole Edina obsession thing is a little bit weird. Like, it is an obsession, and the fact that she shows up everywhere. There are obviously theories surrounding that Edina is not just, the love interest, and she doesn't just pop up randomly for no reason, and that she might be more than she seems, but I guess we won't know until the last book comes out, if it ever comes out. So, I'm holding judgment until the series is actually completed, but yes, it is a bit annoying, the whole drama, romantic situation that they have going on, but I don't mind it that much, honestly. So, next question is, where is the best place to start with Brandon Sanderson? I read a lot of fantasy, but for some reason Sanderson's books intimidate me. They really shouldn't intimidate you. I guess you've seen only the epic ones, which yes, are quite fat and may be intimidating for someone who hasn't read fantasy. I've made quite a few videos recommending all sorts of things from Brandon Sanderson, and the two things that I would say is, one, either start with some of his novellas. So as an example, this one is probably one of his best. This is called Emperor's Soul, and it is a fantasy. It's a fantasy novella. So, if you really just want to get a taste for Brandon Sanderson and to see if you like him or not, definitely recommend this. Or I've talked about this series as well, Legion and Legion Skin Deep. It's a novella series that is also incredibly good, but it's not necessarily fantasy. And then for his series, honestly, I would either recommend starting with The Mistborn, so The Final Empire, or if that also seems intimidating to you, then maybe some of his YA. His YA is actually pretty good, so maybe start with the Reckoners series, which is a YA trilogy. So the books are not that long, and the first one is called Steelheart. So I think these are quite fun and a nice way to get into Sanderson. Have you read The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher? Him and Brandon Sanderson are my favorites. No, but actually I just bought the first two. I have the first two right here, so there you go. That's a sneak peek of a haul that I'm probably not gonna make because I haven't bought many books recently, but no, I haven't, but I'm planning on it. Would you mind sharing with us how many books you read a month? Just to know. Feels like you read a lot, and I feel like I should read more. My monthly reading schedule really genuinely fluctuates, so I can read anything from 1 to 5 books, maybe more if I read a lot of short fiction as well. I really don't have a finite answer for that because it generally depends on how I'm feeling and what kind of books I'm reading. If they're really long fantasy books, that'll obviously take me longer. If they're shorter books, it will take me less time. It varies. What do you think about A Court of Thorns and Roses? I have not actually read that. I have it right here. It is right here, but I haven't gotten to it yet. But I will in the future. Okay, this is a really good question, and it's quite a long one, so I'm just going to read it out to you. People often criticize Patrick Rothfuss and to some extent George R.R. Martin for their incredibly slow writing routine, lack of updates, and involvement in numerous other projects that halt the process of their writing. But do they have any obligation to the fans? If an author achieves success, manages to gather quite a following, achieves wealth because of the book's popularity, does he then have the obligation to be transparent to continue working on the series? If you'll ever be in the position where you would have quite a following, how will you manage it? Be like Brandon Sanderson and be open about the progress of your work. Be like Rothfuss and keep your writing progress secret, or be somewhat in the middle and try to keep a balance. That's an awesome question. Thank you very much. So many people criticize Rothfuss and George R.R. Martin and a lot of authors for being incredibly slow in writing their books and not having a lot of updates on the writing progress, and a lot of people think that these series will never get finished and they've given up on them completely. They stop recommending it to people because, hey, it's not done, so why bother? I feel like a lot of the people that criticize these authors have never written anything themselves, so to some extent they obviously don't get how hard writing actually can be, especially when you're writing such a complex, long fantasy series. It takes such a long time, guys. And even for me, I've written quite short books in comparison, and it's so much work. There's so much work that goes into writing that people who've never written anything just have no idea about, and that's fine, but I'd really like if they went beyond their own expectations and just tried to understand maybe why it's taking so long. Personally, I don't mind. I adore their works, and I'll still be here, you know, in 5 years, in 10 years, however long it takes for him to write that third book. I will be here and I will be eagerly awaiting it. I have so many other books that I want to read, so many other awesome books that come out every single day. So yes, it's my favorite series, but I have so much to fill the space, and it's not like I fill the space. I enjoy everything that I read. So, you know, of course, if it's the one series that you read, if those are the only books that you've read, the Game of Thrones books or the Kingkiller Chronicles, I can understand how that's frustrating, but then go out and buy other books, read other books. There's so much amazing fantasy out there. So I don't really get that aspect of the complaints. But as to if I would ever be in that position, what would I do? I mean, since I have a YouTube channel, I do like communicating with people. If by some miracle, you know, fingers crossed, I ever get to have a larger following for my books specifically, or yeah, if my books ever become popular or read, regardless of how many people read them, I would like to be transparent as much as possible. Sometimes it's really difficult, and especially if you know, have some bad times, then you don't want to necessarily communicate those bad times, which I completely understand. So yes, I would probably be somewhere in the middle. Since I'm already in this two-way talk with you guys, obviously to me it comes second nature that of course I will communicate my progress and where I'm at and things like that, but it's not the same for everyone. And especially someone like George R. R. Martin, he is ancient, okay? He won't make YouTube videos updating his progress, and he posts pictures on Twitter of him wearing different hats. You know, so that's his extent of communicating. Point is, everyone is different, and I feel like people criticize these authors way too much for their slow progress and for their lack of communication, and I just feel like people should be a little more understanding of writers and how hard it actually is to write a book and how long it takes. But having said that, one of the reasons why I admire Brandon Sanderson so much is because of his impeccable communication and also incredible writing speed. He writes so much and he produces so much and he publishes so much every single year. It's kind of crazy, so I aspire to do that. I think it's impossible. I don't understand how he does it, but that's kind of, you know, someone that I look up to in that way, because I would adore to be able to produce as much as he does and for it to still be so good. Just saw on your shelf that you have Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I just read this last week. I loved it. Have you read any more of her books? No, I have not, but I have read Uprooted and I loved it, so I will definitely be reading the sequel. I think it's a sequel or like a companion novel, and anything else she has written, of course, but in time. Question: how do you find confidence in your ideas? I find myself constantly second-guessing myself when it comes to ideas, anything from world building to characters and plot, and as a result I find it difficult to really sit down and write uninhibited. As you may have guessed, I am a fairly new writer. Oh god, don't worry, this happens to the most experienced writers. Yes, this happens to me, and trust me, it happens to every single writer, regardless of how many books they've published or written, and how many years they've been doing it. Yes, I struggle with confidence, and I have definitely felt like giving up so many times, but you just work through it. And to me personally, even though I question my ideas sometimes, you know, I question my character, I question my plot, I question literally everything. At the end of the day, my strive to make it work, my passion for there's always that initial, you know, spark that lights the fire in your heart that makes you want to write this particular story or this particular character. It has to come from somewhere. I like to go back and think of, you know, why? What made me want to write this story? And that's what makes me, you know, go through and ignore all of the doubt in my head that this isn't any good and just write. So yes, it is hard and it happens to every single writer. If it doesn't, I want to speak to them because they might be magical. How do you find time to read 40 books a year and write a book yourself when you work full-time? Oh boy. Okay, so I will make a separate video talking about how to write with a full-time job and everything, because none of this is easy. But in regards to how I read 40 books a year, honestly, I don't think that's that much for someone who reads a lot. If you always have a book with you, then you can comfortably read 40 books a year. My advice is A, bring a book everywhere with you, because there's a lot of moments throughout your day when you may be sitting in the queue or waiting at the doctor's office or on the bus in transit where you don't really do anything, or maybe you listen to music or something, which is fine. I do that too sometimes, but that's time where you could spend it reading. And even though it doesn't seem like much, like maybe it's a minute standing in line, but it adds up. If you do that throughout the day, you will still have read more than otherwise. And then I like to read before going to bed. So anything from 20 minutes to an hour or 2 or 3, depending on how into the book I'm in and how my mood is. But yeah, I like to read before bed and then in small bits throughout the day. Also, audiobooks are an awesome way to read more, because again, you do a lot of things, you walk around, you're in transit a lot, and you might not be able to read a physical book, but then you can read an audiobook. That still counts as reading, and it's quite a popular way to read books these days. A lot of my friends actually exclusively read audiobooks. So, and the second question she had is, as far as I understood, you prefer adult epic fantasy, but you write YA fantasy books. How come? I like both. I think people stigmatize YA for all the wrong reasons. I adore adult epic fantasy and I love YA fantasy. The reason why I'm writing YA fantasy is simply because of the kind of story that I want to tell just fits into that genre, into that age category better than it would in an epic fantasy adult series. So my protagonist is a young protagonist, and the kind of themes that I want to put in just fit into the whole YA thing. One of my favorite themes to write about, regardless of genre, is coming of age stories in fantasy form or in contemporary form. It's one of my favorite things to read and definitely one of my favorite things to write, and that just fits so well with YA. I definitely plan on writing like an adult epic fantasy series at some point, but for now, the idea that I have for this series is just fits so well to YA that I don't really question it, I just go with it. This person says, I struggle a lot with actually getting myself to sit down and write and then to keep going once I've started a story. I know that my writing is currently very bad due to no practice, so I stop writing because I feel so ashamed of how bad it is, and instead I just come up with ideas of different stories I really want to write when I get better. But I won't get better without practice. So I wonder if you've ever struggled with something similar. If so, how did you handle it, and how do you have tips on how to get past feeling very bad about what you've written or what you are currently writing? Also, before you started to write books, did you write a lot of short stories? Oh god, okay, yes. As I've mentioned previously, everyone struggles with this. Every writer struggles with this. It is so hard sometimes to sit down and write, and yes, there are so many times when I feel like everything I write is complete garbage and I should just throw it in a huge fire and dance around it and maybe cry. But I don't. That's the secret. You don't. You just, if you're really having a bad day, it's perfectly fine to just go do something else. Eventually, hopefully, that passion and that initial strive that made you want to write the story will come back, and then you'll sit down and you'll write the damn thing. But another thing is habit. Habit is super, super important. If you make it a habit to sit down every single day and write 5 words at least 5 words up to however many you want. It will become a habit and you will want to do that every single day. NaNoWriMo is an awesome way to try to get into that habit, so I recommend looking into that. National Novel Writing Month. It happens every November. Everyone sits down and tries to write a novel in a month, and that requires you to sit down at your desk every single day and write words. Otherwise, that will never happen. But it is hard, and I don't necessarily succeed at it every day, but I try. And as for your second question, before you started writing books, did you write a lot of short stories? I did. I definitely did, mostly when I was a teenager. I also wrote a lot of fan fiction because honestly, that's such a great way to start writing. A lot of writers these days have started out writing like Harry Potter fan fiction. That's what I personally did, but a lot of what other people did. I also did other kinds of, like other fandom fan fiction. But yeah, short stories, even wrote poems at some point and just random things. That stuff will never ever see the light of day because it was really bad, but it's a great way to get yourself into writing and to learn more about the craft of writing. So yeah, just write whatever, don't question it, just sit down and write. My question is, have you learned Danish while living in Denmark, and could you say something in Danish? Nej tak. So for those of you who don't know, I do live in Denmark and I have been living here for quite some time now. Danish people are incredibly good at speaking English. Everyone basically speaks English. Even some of my really old neighbors speak English just fine. So you won't find yourself in a lot of situations where you won't be understood. But it does happen, but very rarely. So English is kind of fine. And at the places I worked at, it was mostly English. But I have tried learning Danish, obviously, and I have picked up some Danish, obviously, because it's hard not to. Danish is a very interesting language, and in that it is very difficult, I feel like. I can understand it, but I have trouble trying to speak it. I have trouble pronouncing it. In terms of grammar, it's incredibly simple. But in terms of pronunciation and actually speaking it, I struggle. But I'll get there eventually, hopefully. What kind of music do you listen to while writing? Playlist links. I only have one like writing playlist like specifically for writing, and that is specifically for one of the books that I'm working on, because it has a lot to do with music, and so I kind of made a playlist of songs that remind me of that book or that are even mentioned in the book, but it's not like a public playlist because it's very personal to that album, to that book. But otherwise, I listen to everything that I normally listen to. I listen to a lot of stuff, mostly mostly rock and all the subgenres, and then I listen to like K-pop and stuff. My music taste goes all over the place, trust me. Do you have any favorites in coming-of-age genre? That's not a genre as far as I'm aware. Like, it's a theme in most books. At least most of the books I read. Like I've already mentioned, I love coming-of-age themes, but it's not a genre. Name of the Wind is a great one. Harry Potter is a great one. I'll Give You the Sun is a great one. You are from Romania? If yes, where exactly? If not, where are you from? Yes, I am from Romania. I was born in Timișoara and I've lived there until I was 18, 19, and then I moved to Denmark. So I've been here a long time. But yes, I am Romanian. Have you read Wheel of Time or Malazan? Opinions, if so? Oh boy, I get this question so much, especially in my top 10 fantasy books video that has gone a little bit viral, and oh, so many people. Guys, that was just my opinion. That was just my list, my personal list of the best fantasy books that I've personally read. And no, I have not read Wheel of Time or Malazan, Book of the Fallen just yet, but I am planning to. I have the first 3 Wheel of Time books right here, but it is a long series and I just prioritize others because that's a classic and that'll always be there, it'll always be relevant, but I just find newer books to be of more interest to me personally right now. But I will get to it eventually. That's why I bought them. And also Malazan. Have you read The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden? And what book first got you into reading? No, I have not read that book, but I'm very interested because it just sounds awesome, and I've seen it compared to a lot of the books that I already love, so I'm definitely gonna read that. And what book first got you into reading? Cliche answer, but definitely relevant. Harry Potter. Harry Potter is life. How do you organize your writing schedule? Again, I'm gonna make a separate video all about that because there's a lot to talk about. So stay tuned for that. I like this question. This is basically asking if I'm short, because every time I hold up a book it looks like a massive tome. I mean, it's because a lot of the books I read are massive, but I also have really small hands, and I'm 165, like 1 meter 65. I mean, not tall, but not necessarily short either. Definitely short in Denmark though. Danish people are tall. You seem to be very devoted to reading several well-known authors, such as Brandon Sanderson. How do you balance it with giving a chance to new, unknown authors? Yeah, that's difficult. That's why I haven't yet gotten to a lot of books that a lot of people have read, because I try to balance it. I try to read new releases as much as I can, as well as books that have come out for a while, and also like books that are now considered classics or actual classics. So I try to balance. I try to read everything. I'm interested in a lot of genres, and even if fantasy is my absolute favorite, I still read a lot of other genres. And even though 40 books a year, which is my kind of average, seems like a lot, it's not. For the amount of books that come out and that are already out that I want to read, it's nothing. So yeah, it's definitely difficult, but I try to balance it so that I'm always up to date on what's going on in the reading world, in the book world. Who is your favorite character in The Name of the Wind? I mean, the main character, Gvoth, is my favorite character, and also Elodin. Elodin is incredible. He's a fantastic character, but I genuinely enjoy Gvoth. I know a lot of people don't. The thing about Gvoth is he's telling his own story, and therefore he is definitely an unreliable narrator, and you can pretty much expect that he is exaggerating some stuff about himself and about his accomplishments. And I get that, and I don't have a problem with that. But I like him, so... But I totally understand if you don't, I can see why. So just one quick read series. Six of Crows, it's a duology. It's 2 books. Really good, really quick. What's your favorite color to see on the book cover? I'm very partial to purple, blue, and green. If you could pick one fantasy world to live in, which would it be? Gonna go ahead and guess Hogwarts, but not sure. And which one would you avoid at all costs? That's an awesome question. If I were at school age, I would definitely pick Hogwarts because it's Hogwarts. Like, what's not to like? There's secrets everywhere. And I just go around trying to explore that shit and trying not to get murdered by all the things. So, you know, it's definitely dangerous, but also kind of depends which time in the Harry Potter universe, because there's been some stuff going down at different times. Some years were quieter than others. But if I were a kid, I'd say definitely Hogwarts. The thing about all of these fantasy worlds is that there's nothing nice. Like, there's not one single one that is lovely that you would just go into and not be scared of dying. You know, it very much depends on what I would be in that world. Like, would I be a powerful wizard? Because then, heck yes. Because then I could avoid dying by using my magic skills and stuff, right? Or would I be a really good warrior? Probably not. Struggling to think of one world where it would just be peace and quiet. That would be boring. So why would anyone write about that? Have you read any of Brandon Sanderson's novels? Great writer, and his writing lectures are free on YouTube. Dude, have you seen my videos? He's one of my favorite authors, and yes, I've religiously watched his writing lectures. Would you be able to talk about some of the other books on your shelf that you haven't talked about yet? I'm curious to know what you thought about Eon and Iona. I mean, yeah, obviously I've read a lot of stuff that I don't talk about, but of course I want to do like a bookshelf tour and talk a bit more about books that I don't feature that much. But Eon I love. Like, it's one of my favorite YA fantasy series. Really good. I would definitely recommend that. It's not that popular, but I think it's really good. Did you ever write or think about writing a book? Hi, you must be new here. This person says they had a little problem with Six of Crows and its follow-up, the age of the characters and the things they did in their past. It was a little hard to believe. True, in our terms, in our real world terms. But if you think about the kind of world that they lived in and what they went through, not that hard to believe, or at least fits with the world building, I think, at least. It didn't bother me. Can you help me understand the difference between fantasy and sci-fi? Fantasy, magic, sci-fi, space. That's a very big generalization, but in a nutshell, Talk about your selection process for the books you pick. How do you know you'll like a certain book? Yeah, at this point I know the kind of stuff that I like to read and the kind of stuff I don't like to read, and I do watch a lot of BookTube since I'm here and making BookTube videos. I also watch a lot, and so I listen to other people's recommendations, and especially people who have the same reading tastes as I do, and if they liked something then it probably means I'll like it too. And I'll look briefly into the description of the book and stuff. Sometimes I like to try something new, even though it fits none of those things, and maybe I'll like it, maybe I don't, you know, take a little bit of a risk. But for the most part, I'm pretty good at picking books that I know I will like. But it's hard for me to really explain it. It's really about the experience you have reading and knowing your tastes. Alrighty, I think that's enough. I think those are all the questions that I'm gonna answer today. Maybe I'll do one of these in the future as well, so I can answer more questions that you guys have. But for now, I think that's fine. Okay, so now moving on to the giveaway section of the video. Yay! So this giveaway is gonna be for reaching 10,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, which is crazy. Now I'm at 13,000, which is even crazier. Thank you guys so much again for supporting my channel. It really means so much to me, especially having been on YouTube for such a long time. So in order to celebrate that, I just want to do a giveaway. It's not going to be a huge giveaway because I've never done one, and so I just want to try it out and see how it works. So if it goes really well, then of course I'll do some more in the future. The giveaway will be for a book. Since this is primarily a BookTube channel and a AuthorTube channel, we talk about books here. I like books. You want a free book? I'll give you a free book. So here are the things that you need to do in order to enter my giveaway. It's going to be for a book or the combined value of a few books up to 25 euros. So again, that can be either one or a few depending on their price from BookDepository. So I've mentioned BookDepository a lot because I buy all of my books from them and they offer free international shipping everywhere, so I'll be using them to send you the book. So make sure you live in a country that they ship to. Probably likely that you do because they pretty much ship to most places. So in order to be entered to this giveaway, you have to do a few things. First, of course, you have to be subscribed to this channel since this is a giveaway for reaching 10,000 subscribers. You must be a subscriber, so if you haven't already subscribed, click that button and make sure your subscriptions are public so that I can check, because I will check if you're subscribed or not. And then the second thing you need to do is leave a comment on this video with two things: your Twitter handle or your Goodreads link, or some way for me to contact you, because YouTube DMs and YouTube comments are not a good way to do that, and so I need a private way to contact you. Twitter handle or Goodreads link to your profile is probably the best way to do it. And then tell me which book you would like to win if you win. I'll obviously ask you again if you do win which books you want. But I'm just curious what kind of books you guys want to read. So leave that in the comments. Okay, and then some general information for this giveaway. You have to be over 18 or have your parents and or guardians' permission, because I'm going to need your address to ship it to you. So you need a permission from your parents or be a legal adult to do that. And then the giveaway will be open from today, so that is Monday the 24th, where I am. It's 2 p.m. when I upload this, and it will be open for 2 weeks, so until 10th of September midnight where I live, which is Central European time, GMT +2, Central European summertime, I think. 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, this will be open. So make sure you enter, and I hope you win. But yeah, that was everything for today. It was quite a long video, so thank you for sticking through if you're still here after that long video. But thanks so much for watching, guys, and thanks again for reaching this milestone with me, and I hope you stick around for more. But yeah, I'll see you again next Monday with a new video. Bye!